This will be our inaugural meeting of the spring, which is great. And thank you very much to Dan for coming by to take his time to speak with us and talk about his career in real estate law. Dan Shapiro, he runs his own firm, Shapiro and Associates, in Chicagoland. So it'll be great to hear from someone who runs their own practice and learn about the ins and outs of that, as well as kind of your overarching career path and how you actually got here. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and let you take it away, Dan. If people have questions as Dan's speaking, definitely be sure to put them in the chat, or feel free to interrupt where appropriate, if that's all right with you, Dan. Otherwise, we could hold them to the end as well.
Thank you. So you said the spring. I'm looking outside. It's a long way to spring.
Spring semester, of course.
I know. I understand. So for all of you on the line, thank you for taking the time. What I hope to talk to you about is not the good old days, because you don't want to hear about that. What I hope to be able to talk to you about is maybe your interests in real estate and land use, why you're interested, and maybe calling upon some of the experiences that I had to find out, if those things that I've done over the years pique your interest, or maybe at this point in your educational career, you're still unsure. So what I want to do again is to talk with you and not at you. And if you have any questions, just whatever, jump in, blurt out, because I'm sure there are questions, and maybe there's a lot of stuff you don't know what you don't know. So don't feel embarrassed or at all hesitant to just ask stuff. I've been doing this longer than I would like to admit, since 1987, but not all of that has been in land use and zoning. So the reason I say that is because many of you may feel that you want to do real estate now, which is great, but don't feel bad if you change directions, or if what you think you love today, you don't love tomorrow, and you want to try something else. For many years, I did civil litigation, and then I was at a firm that represented municipalities, local governments, which was terrific. And all those are great experiences, but I've really kind of determined that the last 15, 20 years, land use is what I love. So if it takes you a while to get there, it's okay. If it takes a while for you to find your passion, great. And if it's today, that's fine too. But don't worry about it, because you will get there. You will find something that absolutely you enjoy doing. So having gone through big law for most of my career, small, medium, and large firms, about 7 years ago, I realized I can do this myself. I can take my clients and I can be in control of my own destiny. And I can control my practice and control my stress. I'd rather control my stress through my own things rather than have that be left to someone else in a star chamber determining how many hours I worked, or how much origination I brought in, and therefore whether or not I get a certain raise. So that was my point of view. And it's probably a little premature for you guys to be thinking about starting your own office. It's not typical that right out of law school, people should hang up their own shingles. Why? Because they don't have business to do that, typically. So after you are working for a firm, after you just knock it out of the park, and all of your clients love you, and all of your clients just want you to work on their matters and nobody else, then maybe you think about, maybe that's the time to think about whether you enjoy the big law or a larger law firm, or you enjoy a smaller law firm. Everyone's different, no right or wrong, but that's the time when typically people start thinking about it.
Dan, I have a question about that. Since you said you spent a lot of time in litigation before you went into real estate, and in order to start your own practice, you're going to probably need some business off the bat. Were you kind of developing a real estate business before you started your own firm? Or did you even start out in litigation mostly with your own firm? How did that work?
So I still have some litigation in my firm. I would say 65, 70% is land use real estate related, and the other 30, 35% is litigation related. It takes a while for people to establish a book of business and then feel confident to go off on their own. Doesn't mean you can't, it just means it's more challenging. So it took me a while to do that. But I would encourage you as young attorneys to take advantage of the relationships or the clients or the networking possibilities or the wine and cheese things or the this or the that, to meet people and to develop relationships and to continue to do that from day one. Doesn't mean you're hitting on them for a business, but you are creating relationships that over years are going to benefit you. So when I was a younger attorney, my mentor said, you know, you're not going to talk to the number one guy and get their business, but the number two guy, gal, woman, whomever, or three person is that person that you want to develop a relationship with. Because as you get older and you mature in the legal industry, so does that number two or three. And they eventually become number one. Or they go someplace else and become number one. So you want to develop relationships as best you can and take advantage of every opportunity that your firm allows you to have for marketing or writing stuff on writing papers or giving speeches or attending seminars. Do it, take your card, shake some hands, and just keep laying that foundation for the next 10, 15 years to come. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm assuming it's the same sort of path with government clients as well, since I know you do a lot with municipalities. Did you have kind of a focus on that group of people, or did it just kind of naturally happen?
When I was with a firm for about 12 years, that firm represented local governments. So again, that enables you to kind of be a master in that area and enables you to after you leave that firm or even win that firm and you go, let's just say as an example, when I was there, that firm represented the village of Addison. And now there's an opportunity to represent the village of Villa Park. So you're at an interview with Villa Park and they have the mayor and the manager and they say, tell us about your experience. Well, I've represented the village of Addison. So it leads to your credentials to be able to work on matters as much as you can and be, I know it's kind of cliche-ish, but be that sponge, not only in terms of intellectual stuff that you're learning and you're going to learn, but also in terms of the relationships that you're given the opportunity to establish. Very, very important. The other thing that I want to talk to you about was think about why you like land use and zoning. So for me, I like the art of the deal. I like being able to creatively approach a deal, approach a situation where you can creatively use different avenues to get the land use and zoning, whether it's by way of an agreement or to get the zoning approvals or to work with the government officials or quarterback your own team. It really allows you to use other skills that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. I saw the last couple presentations that you guys had, and the guys from Chapman were terrific. Don Pugh, who I know is terrific. And what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to give you a PowerPoint. I'm just going to talk to you about, say, right now, the difference between land use and litigation. So litigation, people start off as advocates. They're kind of like boxers, ready to go. And you get in the ring and you battle it out. And someone, gets knocked out. If at the end of the boxing match, the boxers are friends and they go out for a beer, great. Not typical, but that's fine. Land use is you start off typically wanting the same thing. You want the same goal. Who is you? The you is usually the village that wants the project, your client, the developer that wants the project, your team of experts. So everyone's working towards the same thing. It's just how you get there. And if at the end of the day, you have a conflict and you've got to sue, well, okay, you become the boxers. So it's completely opposite. As I get older, I want to fight less. So that's why I like land use and zoning a little bit more. So I'm going to just kind of throw it out there. Why, and you guys can jump in however you want. So this is land use real estate club, I guess. If one of you could just tell me why you like land use and what you think is involved with it, that would be very helpful. We can just kind of talk that out a little bit. Don't be shy. There's no wrong answer.
I can get the ball rolling. I think a lot of people are drawn to many parts of real estate and anything with land because of the tangibility. They like the idea that it's a real product of sorts at the end, as opposed to, say, just forming an entity or something like that. Though there's often a lot of that involved too.
So you can drive by and say, oh, I did that subdivision.
Right.
Oh, that building, that huge hotel, I did that. Yes, that's very cool.
Now I'm going to yield to someone else.
Anyone else want to jump in?
I'll go. Oh, sorry. You want to go, Hannah? Oh,
Hannah,
she's muted.
Okay.
So I came from a real estate background on the other side. And the thing that I like about real estate in general is sort of the collaborative approach. Like you said, people are on this, people are working towards this mutual goal, even when it's tenant landlord relations, right? Someone has a space, they want to rent it. Someone wants to rent a space. You just are kind of finessing this relationship building, and it continues. It continues because, like you said, people grow and they change companies, and those relationships expand. I like that part of it, as opposed to the fighting.
Yeah. Okay. So you get what I'm saying. Anna, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to add to what Jack said and what you said. I also have a real estate background, and I've always liked real estate development. And I feel like land use is kind of that first step or the first phase into a real estate development. And it's just really exciting. You get to kind of see a project from start to finish.
So that reminds me, and I want to talk to Kara, Emmy, and Rodrigo, right? I want to hear from you guys too, and Ian, well, anyone who I missed. But that leads me to another topic. One of the cool things about land use when you have a development project is you're really the quarterback, the captain of the ship, or however you want to phrase it. And I don't know if you've heard this before in your other speakers that came before you, but typically a project will require a land planner. It will require an appraiser. It will require a civil engineer. It will require an architect. And why does it require all these things? Well, all those things, all those consultations, all those expertise are critical in whatever development that's going to happen. Lifestyle development or a hotel or retail. You need to have all of those experts be part of what will ultimately be the application for zoning. So who's going to lead all those guys? You are. You guys are going to be the quarterback of the team. You're going to be making sure that the architect gets his plan submitted to the team for internal review. You're going to be reviewing the traffic report. You need a traffic consultant too. You guys are going to be able to put your thumbprint in a way on the project to make sure it keeps moving forward and it's coordinated, which is really cool, which to me is another reason that I think this is a very dynamic area to get into, despite the fact that we have COVID, that retail is dead, that hospitality is dead, but it's not going to be dead forever. Retail is changing. Hospitality will be back. Residential will always have ups and downs. Right now, industrial is very hot. But to be able to kind of quarterback a project like that is an area of the law where it's unique and it's really cool. So, Emmy, why do you want to go into land use? What do you think about land use that is attractive to you?
I actually just kind of want to learn more of this side of real estate. I've had background in commercial real estate, and I'm interested in it, build a business plan in college for it. And I just kind of want to learn about this side of it to give me a competitive edge, I guess, going forward. I'm not sure I want to do this. So I might do civil litigation too. Okay,
well, you know what? You can always do both. You just got to you just have to remember, there's a different approach in litigation than there's land use, and I have made the mistake that if I'm before a plan commission or zoning board, I have kind of this litigator's mentality, and vice versa. If I'm in court, I have this finesse sort of land use mentality, and you got to make sure that you have the right mentality in either one of those forums. And I've made mistakes trying to, for lack of a better word, schmooze a judge. No, that's not the right time to do that. You don't schmooze a judge. You just state your position and you go forward. But I had my land use mentality on. But you can do both. Carl?
Hi, Dan.
Hey.
So you wanted to know why I'm interested in land use?
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't know which type of practice area I want to go into. So I felt like just kind of going into something and trying to see what it's all about and trying to hear from people like you, I guess would open up doors and try to just see what's out there. But I have a question for you. I'm kind of curious as to how the 2008 housing market crash, how did that, if it impact you in any type of way, or how did it impact the real estate law?
It killed real estate. It killed real estate. And it took about 4 or 5 years to come out of that. It was brutal.
I was going to ask you, how did you navigate through that?
You don't want to know. So real estate can be very, very rewarding financially, but it can also kill you. So that was a tough time for most attorneys, including myself, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But real estate will kind of if there's a recession, real estate will suffer. Now real estate's a little slow because not all of real estate, of course, but it generally because of what's going on in our economy. Our economy is kind of crappy, and a lot of times real estate will follow that. So if the economy is crappy, different practice areas might pop up, like foreclosures or bankruptcies or something like that. Those guys could get really busy, but real estate may suffer. So in 2008, 9, 10, what happened was I was working for a prominent zoning and real estate firm downtown, and just enjoying it. But it was 90% real estate. So the firm wasn't diversified. So when real estate went up, people were living large, right? But when it went down, like in 2008, 9, 10, the firm suffered. And literally, we couldn't keep the lights on. People were let go. Salaries were cut. People were let go. Salaries were cut. We went from 40 to 20 to 12, and it was a hard time. It was a hard time seeing friends get laid off or struggle. For partners like myself, what we had an obligation to make sure that everyone else got paid before we did. So everyone else who was still working at the firm. So the partners kind of got hit. No one's going to do a tag day sale for a partner at a law firm. I mean, no one's going to feel sorry, but even partners at law firms got significantly impacted, and that's what happened. So the firm ended up kind of cratering, and half the firm went to another firm, as I did. The firm I went to was Thompson Colburn. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that firm. And the other half of the guys kind of started their own firm and just kind of dug their way out. So that's just kind of, that was a significant event for so many people in and out of law. But those in real estate were not immune.
I have a question sort of related to that, with kind of diversifying practice areas, for lack of a better word. How do you juggle multiple, really kind of wildly different types of clients? You have like a civil litigation client versus a real estate transactional client. How do you juggle both practices? Do you kind of just delegate between like other members of your firm, or do you handle, or are you kind of like a Swiss Army knife handling multiple things at the same time?
You learn. You learn how to do it. And there's nothing more I can say other than you learn through experience. But what is important is for anyone, whether you're coming out of law school or you're 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in the business, you have to know what you don't know. You cannot fake it. Because once you fake it, you're going to get sued for malpractice. If you don't know something, you say you don't know, you'll find out someone who does, or you say, I can't take this case, this is not in my wheelhouse, but I know a woman down the street who's great at whatever, say employment law. I wouldn't take an employment case because I don't do it. So you have to recognize what you don't know. Now, maybe at some point you want to learn about that, which is great, but understand what you don't know. And when I was a younger attorney, a lawyer once said to me, the difference between an okay attorney and a good attorney is a good attorney knows what he or she doesn't know. I said, wow, then I must be great because I don't know shit. So you just have to recognize your limitations. Maybe you learn, but if you are unfamiliar with an area, don't take that case because you are really putting yourself at a risk, and you owe it to a client to practice in areas that you are competent in, and not in the areas that you're not. So, a couple other things about land use, which I find to be exciting, are that it really encompasses a lot of different areas. So not a lot of people think that land use includes constitutional law. Due process, substantive and procedural due process are part of land use and zoning when you're talking about zoning hearings, especially. Administrative law, obviously contractual contracts, because you're working on the purchase and sale agreement or the annexation agreement or the redevelopment agreement. Really, there are many different facets that go into this area that, like, let's say you like constitutional law. Well, you'll get exposed to that, and you'll be able to do that, and maybe you're like, wow, this is cool. This is an unconstitutional taking, for example. So there are many different areas that are kind of subsumed into the land use area. So, Arrigo, why do you like land use, or what brought you to thinking about this?
Hi, Dan. So originally I'm from Miami, and being from Miami, you're very conscious of the environment because of the Everglades National Park, which is to our left of the city. And so, being always conscious, there's always restrictions on what can be built, what can't be built. My mother's a real estate agent, and my father is an investor. He buys and flips properties. So we got hit pretty hard with the real estate crash, market crash of 2008. So then after that, my father's kind of sat me down, even though I was relatively youngish. He's kind of sat me down. And he goes, "Listen, this is what's happening," and whatever. He kind of explained to me the whole situation. Well, as simplified as he possibly could. And ever since then, I just been fueled to like try to understand more of what's going on. Why are there restrictions? And there's a certain part of Miami where I'm from. It's a suburb that's relatively new, so there's always construction happening, and there's always limitation. There's always big parcels of land that are just there, and out of nowhere, there's a huge neighborhood there. Or there's a half-built neighborhood that was never finished because of something zoning went wrong, some contract goes off, and so I was always driving by it, and it always fascinated me. I originally was not going to get into law at all. I was going a different route, but circumstances happened, and I knew that if I went into law school and wanted to study law, that I would go into real estate law because it's something I've always been familiar with and something that has always gotten my attention.
So real estate law also brings in environmental stuff, as you just spoke of, environmental concerns and issues. I don't do that. I recognize that that's something I don't know. So, because that's a very, very specialized legal area. So, like a good lawyer, I know what I don't know, and that's environmental. So, that's also something that is part of the real estate world. Anyone else want to jump in there? Anyone else? Ian? No?
Hey, Dan, let me come off camera here.
Okay.
Hey, so I'm just wrapping off at the office over here.
Are you Ian or Ian?
I'm sorry?
Do you pronounce your name Ian or Ian?
Ian.
Okay. I had an Ian as an employee of mine, and I called him Ian at the beginning. He's like, no, it's Ian.
Hopefully he didn't let it go on for too long.
No, I didn't. And he didn't quit over it either. So.
Oh, that's good. Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just wrapping up at the office here. I'm a part-time evening student. I've been working for 10 years in investments, but frankly, the closest I've gotten to working any real estate deals has been signing my apartment leases. But, like we were talking about earlier, I think for me it starts with the lure of land use real estate starts with the concrete end product, and some of the tangential work I've done in investments, deals we work on, the real estate deals, mostly CMLs and like infrastructure type deals. Those to me have always been much more interesting to work on than sort of like these abstract, like total return swap on a high yield bond index, stuff like that. So I mean, one thing that's definitely interesting is the concrete end product that we were talking about, and just things I've been exposed to through work, how you'll see how a project can progress. Just start off as sort of like a discussion about a negotiation, and then as financing and everything goes on, it looks like it might fall through, and then people solve problems, and then people always seem to figure out a way to push the project along, and then it just comes right back, and then you have a concrete structure out there.
Right.
And I mean, I guess the second part would really be the problem solving that's interesting to me. Not that
the problem solving is really cool.
But,
yeah.
Just sort of like more concrete stuff that like you can really see how things are progressing. And sometimes physically, as working on something we're constructing, maybe like a construction loan or something that I'm working on, looks like the entire deal is going to fall through. Things halfway built, and then some legal issues come up. Our attorneys on our side do what they need to do, and then it gets completed.
Right, which kind of brings me to another point. Real estate can be very choppy. There are a lot of minefields. So you might be going along, and all of a sudden there's no financing, or you got an environmental problem in the ground, or the investors. So there are a lot of minefields, which to me makes it more attractive. To me, those challenges and trying to anticipate those challenges makes it more fun. Now, there'll always be some problems that you'd never anticipate, and you work around it. You work through it. Do you guys hear my dog? It's a dog. It's not a wolf back there. I promise. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is big firm, law firm. Big firm, small firm. And many of you are going to be faced with maybe some choices in the future about taking a job at a big firm or a small firm. It's a personal preference. There's no right or wrong, but there certainly are some benefits and some burdens for each. The way I look at it is a big firm will pay you well. You will get compensated well at a big firm. You will work really hard at a big firm. You will be exposed to really significant, sophisticated projects at a big firm, which is great. And plus, like once offices start opening up again, you'll probably be fed very well. Great, like food and cookies and all that kind of good stuff at a big firm. The thing with a big firm is that it's hard to develop your own book of business. If you're at, say, I'll just say a 200-member law firm, let's just call that big for purpose of this discussion. And there are different practice areas. And there's like the head of each practice area. So each practice area has a half a dozen attorneys. And then there's the head of each practice area. And this is how it's kind of built. It's difficult for you to bring in your own business because you're going to be, for several years, the low man or woman on the totem pole. So how and why would a client give a piece of work to you as opposed to the head of the practice area? Okay, so that's just something to expect if you're at a big firm. Now, if you're at a big firm long enough and you go from 6 to 5 to 3 to 2, and the number one guy who's got $1 million book of business decides to retire and you inherit his book of business, wow, you're sitting pretty. All right, so that's certainly something that happens all the time. It can put you in a really great position. The projects that you work on at a big firm, like I said, will be significant, but your role in those significant projects will just be a small part of it. You'll be exposed to it, but your role likely will be a small part. So some people like that, and they grow up and they grow with a big firm. So when you started at a big firm and you're number 201, maybe in 5 years, that firm is now 600 and you're 201, you're in a good spot. Small firm, you're not going to get paid as well. You're not going to have the luxury of some of the benefits, whether it be financial benefits or working with other people or having the resources that you would have at a big firm or having the bench that you would have at a big firm. On the other hand, working in a small firm gets you exposed to a lot more, a lot quicker. And you're able to really kind of like jump in there and do stuff, roll up your sleeves and you do stuff that perhaps you wouldn't be exposed to. You're not going to get like really cool cases working for Monsanto or United or whatever that you can be proud of or brag to your friends about. You're going to get the smaller clients because your billable rate is going to be smaller. And so therefore the smaller clients are going to be working with you, or you're going to be working with the smaller clients. Personally, I'm a small firm guy. I like the experience and the hands-on more than I like the politics and the bureaucracy of a big firm. That's just me. But a lot of friends of mine are very successful lawyers at large firms, and they enjoy that setting. Any other questions? Anything else on your mind you want to talk about? I know we didn't get to everybody, and I'm happy to listen to anyone else who wants to talk about why they are interested in land use and zoning.
I have a question, Dan.
Yep.
If you don't mind. Do you have any advice? Because I'm a 1L. Do you have any advice for a 1L or anybody that's growing into law school, how they should approach or advice on how they should approach a small firm if they're interested in working specifically with small firms in real estate and zoning law firms?
So 1L is a tricky time because you have some law experience, but a lot of firms, whether they be big or small, feel that 1Ls aren't quite there yet. They need another year of research and writing and all that kind of stuff. That said, if you're willing to kind of just go work at a small firm, get paid, not a heck of a lot, and just be there as almost a fly on the wall, watch depositions if it's a litigation firm, sit in on depositions, help review zoning applications if it's a land use firm, and be comfortable with the fact that you may not be able to do a lot substantively at this point, but just be able to do some stuff, but to kind of learn. That's how I would do it. It's kind of a weird time. So whatever exposure you can get at a law firm, or for a judge, or for a state's attorney, or whatever legal experience, just take it and build upon that, whatever that experience may be.
I have an unrelated question, but I know you're also, correct me if I'm wrong, you're a trustee for the village of, I think it was Deerfield, right? First off, how? Second off, why do something like that? Is it completely apart from your practice? Is it just because you're already around kind of the municipality game all the time? And take us through that.
So my major in college was political science. It's always been kind of a real interest of mine. When my kids were younger, I didn't have time to offer to spend a lot of time as a trustee. But as they grew up and they really didn't want to be around here as much, and I don't blame them. So I was able to kind of get more involved in our community in Deerfield as a plan commissioner. And as a plan commissioner, that really was cool because land use and plan commission hearings, they go hand in hand. So I was able to take my background into those projects that came before the village of Deerfield. And then it's kind of like almost a next logical step. You go from plan commission to chairman to village board. So for me, it was logical and it made sense since I've always had an interest in politics, local politics, to become a village trustee, which I was first elected 2015. I try to keep my business as a local elected official separate from my business as a lawyer, because otherwise it kind of looks not right. It's not right to go to a meeting where I'm in my elected official capacity and start talking to people about projects, or start talking about projects to mayors who are at that meeting that I have. It's kind of like, you don't do that. It's just kind of rude. So I try to keep it separate, but it's useful because I don't have to mention a project to a mayor I see at the political meeting for him to know who I am. Because I'm sitting right next to the guy at a luncheon for a political meeting, and in 2 months he's going to see me when I appear before him for a client that needs a zoning change or something. So it's very convenient that way, but what really drove me is because it's kind of like in my blood, politics in my blood.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
I have a question. Did you ever think about going in-house, like doing in-house counsel?
So in-house, that's a great question. So in-house is very, very intriguing. In-house, you are you get paid pretty well. Your hours are pretty routine. In other words, it's you don't have to grind it out till 8 or 9 o'clock that you would maybe at a big law firm. you get great experiences in-house. The problem with in-house is if you're there too long, if you're there from the age of 25 to the age of 35, it's hard to leave because you have not developed those relationships or that book of business or those other sorts of intangibles that you would outside. So if you're in-house and all of a sudden you're 40 years old, and I know that seems like an eternity to you guys now, but it goes fast, trust me. And you're 40 years old and you say, I just don't want to do this. I'm doing this every day. It's the same thing. Okay, now you're out, you're 40 years old and you don't have a book of business and your legal exposure is very limited. So that's the downside. And you have to think about that. Again, there are a lot of people who are very, very successful as in-house attorneys and they're happy and they do just wonderful work. But there's always there's always a yin to the yang. And those are kind of some of the considerations that you should think about if you ever want to consider going in-house.
I was going to ask you one more question.
Sure, fire away.
So for big law, I see how like when you first come in an associate, you're doing more of, I guess, the grunt work and it's very hard and it's very challenging. However, like as you make your way up and get promoted to eventually a partner, how does that work? Like, is it still more challenging? Is there a lot more on your plate the higher you go? I mean, I'm assuming since you're like a partner, you have more, you can delegate like assignments and tasks.
Right. That's correct. And every firm is different. So a lot of people think, well, you work your ass off for 7 years and then you're a partner. It could be 7, it could be 5, it could be 9. You could work your tail off for 6 years, and on the 7th year they say, we really like you, but you're not partnership material. Sorry. You can stay here as long as you want, but you're not going to be partner. When you are a partner, you have more delegating ability and authority. You also have more responsibility. So that project that you were working on, that piece of a project that you were working on 3 years ago as an associate, that's fine. But now as a partner, that's yours. You're responsible for that. You can say all you want that the associate didn't do this or that, but you're ultimately responsible. The buck stops with you on that piece. So you take that which many people embrace. I would embrace that. Come on, bring it on. But you're also responsible as a partner, oftentimes, of bringing in business. Your roles and projects obviously will be more significant. You'll delegate, and what you do will be more significant. So those are some of the dynamics and considerations of a partner. And a partner is a different thing for different firms. You can be an income partner, which means your income is higher, but you don't have any equity in the firm. You can be a equity/capital partner, which is great, but you buy in. So maybe a share of the partnership of the firm, you pay $50,000. So for the next 5 years, you're taking $10,000 less and you buy in. So different firms haul and treat partners different ways. Any other questions you guys may have? I'm going to leave Jack with my contact information. So if any of you have any questions, please, and I really mean this, don't hesitate. I like helping people who are younger. I like paying it forward. I remember being you. And if you have any questions, call me, email me. Don't hesitate. Don't worry about, I don't want to bother me. It's fine. It's okay. And I'm happy to answer your questions.
We appreciate that very much, Dan, and I'll be sure to send your contact info to everyone after this. Thank you to Hannah as well for connecting the club with Dan. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Hannah.
And if anyone has any questions for me about the club, if you happen to be new to Lure, first off, welcome. And thank you for attending our first meeting of the spring slash winter. But we'll probably have our next meeting in the next few weeks, and I'll be sure to give everyone an update about that when the time comes. But thanks again very much, Dan. We appreciate it.
Good luck, everyone. Stay safe.